Hey, everybody, it's Georgia Rose in the Soul Space. Welcome. Tonight, I am really excited because I have a guest. And I don't always have a guest, but tonight I do. And I love it because I don't have to be talking to you guys for an hour. So, before I bring my guest on, I am actually going to talk a little astrology because we have quite a week. This week is extreme. I know you probably guys probably felt that over the weekend. And we're also going to share the show. So, if you want to help me do that, you can. And we are live now. You can also watch us on Facebook or on YouTube. So just remember that you can either way and you can comment on either one of those pages. So works really well. I'm not getting this. Okay. And I'm going to share the show on to our live feed on Facebook. So I don't know if you guys all felt that energy this weekend, but I certainly did. It was quite a thing. But it eased off a little bit today, but we're gonna have some building energy this week, and as the energy builds, it'll actually bring us a little bit of disillusionment, a little bit of more frustration for those of you who are feeling a little frustrated today. It's only temporary. We're gonna feel it this week. It will ease up a little bit on the 20th when the solstice comes in. And of course, you guys know this all has to do with frequency and energy and the way we're all vibing and vibrating. And that's what my guest is going to talk to a little bit, talk to about this today. But we've got Mars going into Virgo this week. That's the biggie. So Mars going into Virgo will bring us a more industrious phase. You know, Mars has been in Cancer and Leo since September 4th of 2024. The longest I can ever remember Mars being in a sign, kept bouncing back between Leo and Cancer. And in that energy, it was very different. You're talking about fire and water. Now Mars goes into an earth sign. It's ruled by Mercury, which is the mind, and it's Virgo, which is industrious. So we're all going to feel very organizational. We're going to feel like we want to dig in and do some hard work. All those things that have been frustrating you that you haven't been able to do, you're going to be able to do them now. For those of you who are in Sun is in a mutable sign like Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, or Sagittarius, you'll really feel this energy shift. So Mars is going to be in Virgo until August 5th. And there's some other things that happen this week which also contribute to that energy. This is a week where energy is really ramping up. That's why we feel a little disillusioned, a little frustrated. It's going to be, that kind of thing. I hate to say negative things, but it will feel like that. And then that energy will ease up next week as some planets move around. The big thing this week, aside from Mars going into Virgo, those of you who are Virgos, you're going to have a real energy boost with this. But wherever Virgo is in your chart, look, because that's the house that is getting energized. But the other big thing that's happening is Jupiter is going to leave its square with Saturn and go into its square with Neptune. And that's going to make us very imaginative. It's going to bring in things about faith. It's going to be very philosophical. We can also exaggerate things in that energy because Neptune is an energy where boundaries dissolve. So where in your life are you feeling unbound? And where do you kind of have to set boundaries? Going to be a huge theme in the next week or so. And then, of course, on the summer solstice, the sun enters Cancer. That is an energy where we are really coming into more of summer season, warmth, heat. We will also feel more compassionate and empathic in our hearts. And that Mars and Virgo energy that makes us so industrious, that Sun and Cancer energy balances that out to make us industrious for things that we really value and the things that are valuable to us. So, with that, I am going to introduce my wonderful guest. He was on the show quite some time ago. And ever since then, you guys have been actually asking me to bring him back on. So, I have now done that. And here I am with Phoenix Green. Hey, Phoenix. I love that you have the Schuman residence up in the back. I love that. So Phoenix, to
I
give
do,
you
yeah.
to give you a bigger introduction, Phoenix is a very good friend of mine. I love Phoenix. I love his energy. And if you ever meet him live or go to him for anything, healing or reading or whatever, you are going to feel his energy right off the bat. He's just like pure love. So Phoenix is an energy healer. He's a Reiki practitioner. He also reads oracle cards. But his posts about what's called the Schuman resonance are really his forte. He is a believer of frequency and aligning us to the four fields of frequency, which he'll talk about tonight. So please welcome him. And Phoenix, I guess we should start off by just having a basic talk about vibration and frequency. Like,
Sure.
talk to us like we're five.
Well, that's good. I think everybody can understand harmonic resonance. That's probably the biggest
Like
aspect
music.
when we human resonance. It's the harmonic resonance, and I always like to say it's like when a bell is rung, or if you're ringing a singing bowl. Like you have to create the resonance, right? Like, and what you're doing is when you strike the singing bowl, that resonance is what creates this harmonic frequency. So with the Schumann resonance, and our Schumann resonance is normally like 7.83 hertz. So that's the natural beat of what the Earth goes through. And when we say heartbeat, what we're talking about is in the ionosphere. And the ionosphere is like everything that's entrapped in the upper portions of the atmosphere. And it's this portion where the gamma rays and solar burst and like all these things, all this cosmic energy gets collected. And when it gets collected, it's like ringing the bell, and that bell, then we are able to determine this and view this and measure this, and we can see these fluctuations happen during certain times of whether it be spiritual enlightenment, whether it be a cosmic enlightenment or an earth enlightenment. Where the earth
Mhm.
goes through these evolutionary periods. They seem to be tied to this shamanic resonance. Now, with the shamanic
I have
resonance, it was
to say, I'm gonna
that.
just jump in because when you first turned me on to this Schumann resonance, must have been like 5 years ago, and ever since then
Yeah,
now, I can feel it, like, I know, and I see it out in when you go outside the house or you're actually out in just, with people, it's almost sometimes like the screen behind you with all the white energy, when it's like that, I feel sometimes like I'm in a beehive,
right.
it's like
It
the
always
earth is actually buzzing.
coming here, when I'm being, coming to on the podcast, that there seems to be some type of Schumann spike that seems to happen, and we just had one
Us.
last
We're
weekend.
spiking the world.
Yeah. So it tends to be, correlate, and it tends to be correlates very cyclical too. So around this time last year, we've also had some Schumann spikes, and I think some of the largest Schumann spikes that we've had was back in 2023 of recent, and I think that was around the same time. I think it was that June 15th to like June 18th, time frame.
Mhm,
So it
mhm.
tends to be this time of it's like the planet's just getting hit so hard, and it's like the resonance is so high, and
Yeah,
we all feel it. And as we've shifted to a season, the planet is definitely going to feel this and affect this, and it's going to emanate this energy back out. You know,
and I notice, like you say this time of year, the sun is going into Cancer, and Cancer is all about the heart,
right?
compassion, and it seems like I know sometimes when tragedy happens in the world, like we had that plane crash or something happens, I notice that the vibration of the earth spikes because I think people are more compassionate maybe,
Well, I think
like we're vibrating at
both.
a higher.
I think grief, empathy, I think, and gratitude. I think all of those three tend to be
Mhm.
related to these Schumann spikes. Now, again, it could be our grief, it could be our gratitude in a sense, ringing the earth, like us all conscious, our conscious level, all and emanating this gratitude towards the earth, and that aspect is like ringing the bell in a sense,
Right, I
or
see what you're saying, yeah,
the fact
that
that
makes sense.
these energies are triggering our own internal challenges and awareness. And I think that's a very important aspect, is that you can have it on both ways. These energies can definitely be triggering and cause these types of like symptoms, that ascension symptoms, and you hear all these terms and stuff, and it's just basically just our way of adapting or acclimating to the energy spikes.
Right.
And I think
Well,
that's the
whenever we
most
have
important thing.
a spike of any kind, you gotta adjust to it. Just like
Right.
you said harmonically, if you're playing music, you have to adjust the volume, you have to adjust your cadence. So
Correct.
we, as humans, we have to do that.
And we know that when the harmonic frequencies change, like we know 432 hertz and we know 528 hertz, like these are very
Mhm,
common frequencies, and these frequencies are related to the improvement of our well-being. And I think that's an important aspect too to understand when we're dealing with the
mhm,
Schumann spike. Is it
mhm.
an aspect that's happening to our well-being? What's happening to our well-being when these spikes are happening? And that I think really stems down to each individual's personal experience. Because I've had
Right,
people that chewing spikes are like, oh, everything's great, everything's wonderful. That could be happening too. And I have a collective aspect where people are more like, no, I'm really like tuning in. There's something deeper. And I always say it's not what's happening to you, it's what's happening around you to other people. So you might
right.
be in an environment where you're really like affected in a sense by it, but other people are because of their environment and their connection to it. And I think that's an important aspect too. Is once we learn to really slow down and really connect to the harmonic frequency. Remember, it's 7.83 hertz. We're not talking about 100 hertz or 1,000. Like
Right,
it doesn't need to
right.
be that drastic.
And
And people take
also, with astrology, like, as above, so below, but exactly what you're saying makes me feel like when I look at the transits and I know certain trends are happening, and also you can hear planets in outer space. I feel the planets speak to me. Sometimes I can feel like, especially if I'm studying a certain planet or a certain transit, I can feel it. When I read someone's chart, I do
Mhm.
it psychically and I do it astrologically, but I also feel the chart. I feel the
Right.
vibration.
Now,
So when you think about what you just said,
yeah,
that vibration is affecting everyone on the planet in some way.
correct, correct.
The Earth is spinning around with all those planets. So
And it
whatever
also
the Earth hertz
intertwines with what
is
person's happening
reflective.
to you, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
if
reflective.
that's happening to you, you might have a different perspective than somebody else on
Right.
what's to them. And I always take that into account when these energy spikes are happening. What's happening in your daily life and your own
Mhm.
personal that you can see and be part of that you're like, oh, well,
Right,
now I understand why this is happening to me and why something else happened to somebody else.
right.
I think
'Cause
we
we're
get so
reflecting it.
tied into that. Yeah, but we get so tied into like when we see these spikes, we assume that oh, these spikes are happening, so
This is
I'm
what
ascending or I'm having these symptoms, and they're not necessarily. It doesn't exactly happen like that. And I think
right.
that's the most important aspect. It really tunes into how you're tuning yourself to
Mhm.
frequencies.
The
Like
frequency.
people don't
Yeah.
understand that's resonance. Is like when we tune into something, we looking for something to come back. So
Right.
like, once
Mhm.
we tune into the universe, whether it's consciousness, spiritual work, that they always say that when you tune in, it's like you're sending the signal out, and then we receive the signal back. So
Right.
that
I always use the word configuration.
yeah,
'Cause I feel like we configure ourselves through an energy, but
right,
we can't do that unless we're receiving it and also taking it, giving
correct,
it and taking it.
correct.
It's gotta be a figure eight, really, is what it comes down to, is
Yeah,
that
it's that
figure eight.
infinity symbol that we've seen so many times, the
Yeah.
Fibonacci, like, it's
Yep.
that
The
repeat of energy,
fractals.
that cyclical energy that just keeps coming back perfect in that perfect
Mhm.
way, and I
Mhm.
think that's the greatest thing about harmonic frequency is that 432 hertz is that pathway happening at the exact moment, at that exact aspect, and you're feeling all of that vibrational frequency, and you're vibing with it, you're
Yeah.
feeling the good vibes
Yeah.
of 432,
Mhm.
so
And
I
we've
think
all felt that,
oh,
as
yeah,
long
and
as we've
that's an
we've all
important
felt
aspect
that.
too. I mean, that's 432 hertz. That's a
Mhm.
higher frequency than 7.83. Like
Mhm.
7.83 is a very small amount, but
It's like
when we
that
ground,
feeling
that's
when
what we're tuning into. When we ground our feet, we're tuning to that 7.83 hertz.
right.
Those
And,
negative ions that are
for
coming.
those of us who do yoga, as I know you do,
Yeah,
it's that samadhi. It's that, when you get into that free flow where you really, I've had this so many times in meditation or even when receiving Reiki where you're just light.
yeah,
You're no longer a body. Now you're just complete light in that beautiful field. That's when you're in perfect harmony with the energy. And I
yeah.
think that
That's the light
we forget
frequency.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I love. That's why you hear that, right? Harmonic frequency, light frequency. Like,
Yeah.
why are they called frequencies? Because they're happening on this very intrinsic, very small aspect of our lives. And
Mhm.
once you tune into them, you can tune into light. You can tune into sound
Yeah.
frequency. Like that's the beauty of it, and that's what I love so much about harmonic resonance is that when we
Mhm.
really sit back and we become, you know, the singing bowl, and that's when the environment or what's happening in the world is tuning us.
Yep.
We're getting hit by it, and all of a sudden we're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" But then when we go back and we start tuning ourselves and we start saying, "Wait a minute, what if I tune back to the universe?" So
Right. You
basically, we're
found it.
getting
Yeah.
perception, right? And now we're tuning that energy back. And I think that's the most important thing too. Is that's when the discharge when we do tree energy work and stuff like that. We're putting that
Mhm.
energy to the tree, and the tree's discharging that energy back into the earth. Is this constant exchange of energy?
I
Like
know
we're
one of your favorite places is the same as mine, the, Arboretum by us,
right, right. The
and
big
I'll tell you, it's such a vortex because every time I go there, I have the experience you're describing. As
mhm.
soon as I start to walk certain paths there, I can feel the energy around me and the grounding,
Oh
and I
yeah,
can
oh
feel how as I walk, I can actually feel my feet now becoming in sync with it,
yeah.
because
There's
we're allowing it.
there's definitely these points I like to call like these positive aspects, this harmonic resonance that you can feel higher in certain areas, like proserpines.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
Setauket, or actually, I think that's in uh, Yaphank, I think it is. And in that area, it's another thing too. You walk in, and all of a sudden, you just turn around, and you still hear the cars, but eventually, if you go further in, you don't hear the
Mhm.
cars. And it's
Yeah.
small,
It's
like
like
mile and a half, not
the
even.
shrine out east too is like that. Our Lady of the
Yeah, and there's
Island.
a lot of
Yeah.
aspects that you slow down and you start to really like connect, and those environments give you that. And that's
Right.
when I used to go out a lot, and I used to go out a lot more. But when you would go out to these areas during these times of these high spikes and stuff like that, you could really tune in and really connect more than you just sitting at home on your computer or on your,
Absolutely.
doom scrolling on your phone. You're really not going to connect in that aspect that you would if you're sitting in a forest. And that's where, because now you're not just using your ears, you're not just using your eyes, you're using the piezoelectric. And that's piezo when you sit on the ground and those negative ions come up, you're tuning into that 7 point wake. We are a huge receptor, and
Mhm.
that's the thing. When you tune into and you ground yourself, that's what you're doing. You're lighting that all your chakras, everything up. And you don't even
Ab
have to hear the frequency, you feel the frequency. And I
you
think
absolutely.
that's another aspect that's really important too, is that once you start to really learn that it's not about listening, that's about feeling. And then you
Mhm.
all of a sudden now you're like, "Whoa, I'm tuning into these frequencies that I didn't even
Then you
know
really
existed."
let go. You let go of
Yeah.
that
Yeah, and
conditioning.
it's just an amazing
Yeah.
feeling when you start to really start to let go of that, like, either I'm crazy, or like this isn't really happening, but then all of a sudden you start to really tune into these frequencies and either get the hum or you start getting really deeper and deeper into this?
That's why I have singing bowls, and I think it's
Yeah.
one of the best gifts I ever got, and I always sometimes I can tell if I'm just, like, even, like, lately with a lot of the Gemini energy around, I get a little scattered, and I immediately just start doing a singing bowl and connecting with it, and it's like I got medicine, you know? It's so beautiful.
It just
So
puts you back into that harmonic resonance. Like, we
mhm,
all are supposed to resonate, and when we get wrung by, current events or
mhm.
whatever it is,
Well, and
like,
it's also a
bring
condition,
yourself
like
back to nature. It is a
yeah,
conditioning, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Even with the Schumann resonance, it's this beautiful thing, and, to be able to, if you allow yourself to vibe with the frequency, and yet a lot of times people will be like, "Oh, it's making me sick, it's doing this," and you'll even read up on it, and they'll say that, humans have this, um, you know, relationship with it where you will get a headache or you will get stomach ache when the earth is vibrating a certain way, and yes, we energy can make us sick, but it
Mhm,
doesn't have to be that way.
right.
Like I always say, step into your own experience and really feel what that is before you read online, "Oh, that's why I have this."
Yeah. Well, that's the problem of perspective, right? Is that
Mhm.
we are not making our own perspective anymore. Our perspective is being coerced, it's being manipulated, it's being processed. It's all these terms that we hear with food in some aspect, and it's happening on that level. And our consciousness is starting to become more aware of it. We're starting to
Oh,
realize,
yeah, big time.
I don't
Yeah.
know if that's exactly where you want to put yourself. What I'm saying? That's where
And
you
that's
become
gonna become more
you ring
heightened,
the
I
bell,
think.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not letting that ring my bell. Like, that's not something I want to resonate with, right?
And I
Like,
think
that's a great
that's the
expression.
natural evolution of our species because as we keep getting like, what do you do with all this information? You have to start to separate, and that's also Mars and Virgo,
Right.
separating the wheat from the chaff. What is good nourishment to me and what is the garbage? You
Yeah.
know? I think that you're gonna see that especially for the rest of this year, you're gonna
Mhm,
see a
mhm.
lot of that discernment come really into height with the planetary, things that we have, because 2026 is the year where we really start to, come into what is true to us, and then
Yeah.
2027 is the rise of the sleeping phoenix, so you're really gonna love that year, but,
Boy.
yeah, but I think that, this is we're in a transitional time now, that's why everything is so heightened. We have to get poked in the back in order to realize we have something we gotta get rid of.
Right.
So, I think that discernment that you speak of, and that's why frequency is so important.
Mhm.
I know that you work with what they call the 4 fields, which
Yeah.
I think really speaks to all of this. So talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go back to the Schumann.
I mean, the PEMs, or physical,
Yeah,
emotional, and
I know
spiritual.
the
Very
yeah, exactly.
one of the people that I follow is the Healer's Manual, Greg, Ted Andrews, rather. And
Mhm.
he wasn't one of the first persons that resonated with it as other people have, but I happened to read it and I was like, the first thing was about learning how to master your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual
Is
fields.
he the same one who wrote the Animal Speak book?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of my
he's one
favorite that's like my Bible. I love
he's
that book.
definitely one of my favorite as far as
Yep.
like mentors and people that speak energy. And the healer's manual, I honestly think it's got to be one of the most cohesive, like perfectly put together. If you're looking to become a
Mhm,
healer, there's a lot
mhm.
of great aspects, and he talks about sound resonation and
Now
how
why does it resonate with you as the perfect manual? Like, what makes it so for you?
because it really talks about it implements those 4 fields. It puts those 4 fields into action because
Mhm,
I had a plan. I downloaded all my information, from my
mhm,
guide, Green Phe the Green Phoenix. So
mhm.
once I was able to tap into that type of that field, that energy, like, I saw energy happen through our bodies in the 4 fields: the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects.
Those are the
And
4 fields, got it.
physical is just the grounding aspect, it's how our body moves. It's the root, the sacral, and the solar of those 3 chakras are connected to that. So it's
Mhm,
basically anything physical we doing in our life. How is that related? What actions are we trying to do? How much energy do we have to do those actions, right? And then it goes on. It goes on to the emotional field, and the emotional field is basically what your feelings are, how you're feeling, what you're feeling towards. Your gratitude versus your compassion that you have. And I feel
mhm.
that you have to fill up your own cup. That's the higher heart chakra. The higher heart chakra brings that energy back in,
Right.
so that you can be compassionate. So you're filling up your own heart.
I was just
Chakra.
talking about this
Yeah.
today. One of my friends is going for open heart surgery, and I
Oh
was
wow.
saying how, well, he had something happen to him in his life where he literally had a heartbreak,
Yeah.
and then boom, he ends up, so those chakras will never lie to you.
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's like once you start to learn that, you can hopefully to have better health for yourself, especially emotional health. I feel like emotional. I
Oh,
mean, we all know physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. These are all different types of healths, but emotional health seems to be something that we really have more of a control over. That we're just giving it out to
mhm.
whether it be to the phones, whether it be to other things. Like
Yeah,
we're just
people
giving
don't
it
realize their own agency with that. That's the
right.
issue. People give away their emotional health all the time.
Correct, and it's just really just focusing on what you're grateful of and focusing on how much gratitude. Because the more we build gratitude, the more compassion we have for to be compassionate beings. The
Mhm.
problem is,
Gratitude
what
is
we're
the
seeing is
antidote
a
for
not a
everything.
lack of compassion in the world, it's a lack
Right,
of gratitude,
right.
and I
I
always
always say
say
that,
that, it's like,
gratitude is the antidote for
"Oh, yeah,
everything.
be compassionate," you know? Like, you're
Be
not.
grateful every day, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, we're not implementing the gratitude, and that's what the emotional energy field really focuses on. We
Mhm,
focus on that aspect, and as we move to the top to the mental field, the mental is all about our thought process, how we're communicating our feelings, what action
mhm.
are we going to speak of
Mindset.
to other
Yeah.
people, and
Mhm.
then we go to the last one is the spiritual, and the spiritual is your beliefs. It's putting it all together
The
because
soul space.
without your thought, without your feelings, and without any actions, what belief do you have? Like, your belief is
Right.
made up of what those are, the actions,
Someone
the
told
feelings,
you to believe.
yeah, collectively, right? And that comes together, and then
Somebody
once you're
somewhere said.
putting your 4 fields together. So that's something that I help people teach to master that, because once you're able to master the 4 fields, you're starting to realize that things aren't just happening, things are happening on individual fields.
Mhm.
Like, for instance, like if we're trying to change the health of our body and we're eating certain foods, but we're feeling a certain way, our body's been sending the message. It's not our brain, it's our body's
Right,
literally like, "Listen, stop eating that." And I'm
right.
personally going through my own personal journey, cutting out
Mhm.
some of the meats and some of the things that just slowed my body down. And now
Right.
all of a sudden I'm processing faster, and I'm starting to connect better because I'm becoming realizing the resonance, right, from the energy that comes from the cosmos. I'm want to resonate with that energy, and you can't resonate when you're not living
Well,
and living your physical
it's
body.
funny that you say that because there's 2 things that I do. One, I do all the time, all year, is whenever I eat any food at all, I actually send energy to the food and bless it
Oh,
with Reiki energy before I eat it
I
because
and that's
yeah,
one thing
because
I have
I
no.
wanna have it internally. Yeah,
See? And
and
when that's the thing about resonance, and it's a great thing that you said that, because that's the thing. When we put those intentions into things, we get
mhm,
what back. When we forget to do it, we don't realize, like, well, why
right.
is my face is
That's
funny?
why the tradition of
Why do
saying grace before a meal
I set
originated.
right. Was the
Yeah,
whole point to set that intention so that you
right,
pass on that wellness into your body. You're telling the
right.
food to inhibit to express wellness.
And it may be mental, I don't know, but I have a garden every summer. And I really nurture those little babies, and I put all kinds of energy in them, and I, like, bless them, and when I eat food from the garden, it is the most delicious food I've ever eaten in my life.
Your intentions, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's
And, you know,
spiritual,
like, you
it's
know how you love
emotional.
watermelon, right? You love watermelon. You we have a
My
connection with
alkaline
watermelon.
healing food, you know? Absolutely.
I always try to grow it, but I haven't gotten there. Maybe this year will be the year of the Reiki
It's
watermelon.
very hard to grow. You gotta have a lot of room for them, you know, because it's a
I
vine.
know.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, but
but it's so
I
true, and,
think
like, just being able to be a part of nature that way
yeah,
and eat food that you have really grown in a sacred place, you know, that's you're nourishing yourself on such a different level.
right, and I
So we're
think
gonna put your website up, I think,
you
I
know
don't
what I'm
know where
saying? You can't do
went.
that if you're not resonating at that level to obtain that knowledge or that wisdom that's being
Mhm.
passed on from your body, you know,
Right,
from
right.
your mind, you know, your heart and your spirit eventually. Like that's where the spirituality comes from. Like
So, Phoenix, we have your website up on the screen, and tell people how they can find you because you're such an interesting guy. I just love everything that you
yeah,
do.
I haven't really been doing a lot with the website, to be honest with you. I've had this website since like 2020.
But it's a good
There
website.
are
It
some
explains
key
what you
points
do.
go about taking your own medicine quest, you know, learning
Mhm,
about which phoenix you connect with, and that lets you connect to the four fields, you know, and
mhm.
then you figure out what service you need because I offer different types of services, whether it be Reiki, you know, pet Reiki. I've been really focused on a lot of
I love
animal
that you
health,
do that.
wellness.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of my biggest aspects that I'm really connected with. You know,
Mhm.
so I always offer free, you know, pet Reiki to people if you want me to come to your house for Reiki. Then if you have an animal, I always offer free pet Reiki to you, you know, because it's just something that I'm
So now
so passionate.
are you still doing your nature walks and things like that? I love that you did those.
I've been slowly become a caretaker for my elderly dog as she's getting closer to
Oh, okay.
Rainbow Bridge. But she's got the osteosarcoma, which is very popular. It's bone cancer. It's a very popular thing in dogs, particularly in like rescue
Mhm.
breeds, in particular
We're gonna send
labs
her
and
love today.
But
Just send her
what
love
I
there.
think is so good about it is that it's teaching me about pre-grief, it's teaching me about understanding the frequencies and the energies, like when the Schumann's off, I notice
Mhm.
everything's off that and everything else, so it's like,
Do you
I
know
truly
when
feel once I do that, I'm gonna start moving and start doing more of my nature walks and
Yes,
some of
you're
the
needed there now. You have a
right,
contract
right,
with that
exactly.
animal.
Here,
I
you know,
often said
short
the biggest lesson I learned from my dog, my
yeah,
soul dog, my Sparky, you know Sparky,
yes,
when he passed, the biggest lesson I learned from him was impermanence.
yeah,
And it really, because I have a lot of Scorpio energy, so, you know, we have that attachment. So, having the dog really made me realize, again, with gratitude,
mhm,
if you're with someone or something, a connection, and it's a really good connection, whether it's 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 years, or 5 lifetimes, just be grateful for that moment because nothing is permanent.
right, and that's the
And
thing, it's like, the only thing I say that dogs are is that they're eternal. You
yeah,
know, there's an
they walk
eternal
with us for a while.
aspect that well, especially with soul dogs, you know, and it could be you could have a dog for, 2 days, or you could have a dog for almost 20 years. And I feel
Mhm,
like to me, it's the same. You could just have that and then they're gone. And like that's like soulmates do that, right? You only get rid there for a certain period of time and then you're gone. Like the
mhm.
same aspect when you meet that soul dog. Like that time that they're in your life is only a short period. And I think the last time I
Mhm.
was on, we were talking about that animal communication
Yes,
and
we did it on animal Reiki, yeah,
yeah, that's
and
another
I always
topic
say
that we
that's what,
had. Yeah. But
yeah, that's what Sparky taught me. He taught me that whatever's in your life was just meant to walk with you for a while, and be
yeah,
grateful that someone's walking with you for a while, you know?
that's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the
so
beauty and that I'm learning that too, is to slow down and really pay attention to it.
mhm. So now what do you think about when, you know, people say the Schumann resonance has a certain effect on people, like, you know, brain waves and consciousness, of course, but also they say, like, blood pressure and, like, is that
Oh,
do you
yeah.
subscribe to that? Like, tell
Well,
us a little bit about that
we were
kind of stuff.
talking about that before. The Earth
Yeah,
resonates at 7.83 hertz, right? So
mhm.
that 7.383 hertz can be obtained by grounding. You know, I've been sleeping with the grounding bracelet, you
Yeah,
know,
my
some
friend sleeps with a grounding mat. He has,
I
like,
like
a mat
the
he sleeps
bracelet.
on.
I sleep with it. It's attached to the ground
Mhm.
port, the outlet, whatever, and I notice when I don't sleep with it, tend to be a little the next day, I tend to have less energy and just not focused, but
I
with
got
the
good
grounding, I
grounding
tend to
system.
wake up more centered and focused when I'm grounded.
So what
So,
would you recommend to ground if you're sleeping?
well
Like a bracelet?
I think that I'm sorry, what was the question?
Like, what would you recommend if someone felt they needed something to ground them, like, especially during sleep?
Oh, so, a device or a way to
Yeah,
do it?
or
Is
is
that what
there crystals or what
yeah,
would you
Oh, great. We can start crystals first. I love that.
You
I
and I will
love
talk
my
about
black
crystals for 10
tourmaline.
years.
I love my pink
That's another
selenite,
bill.
you know? I think those are really key stones for developing a grounded and a wellness type of sleep. It sets up, it
So say
allows you
those things again, the
to
selenite you were talking?
the peach selenite, yeah, particularly the peach selenite tends to be more, and I call it the healer selenite because it helps
Mhm,
recharge after energy sessions and whatnot. And when you pair it with the black tourmaline, it's an
mhm.
incredible grounding and protection that it's unheard of. And sometimes I'll put a little. I wear amethyst bracelets. Sometimes I'll put an
Yeah,
amethyst bracelet under my
I sit
pillow
with
as
them on
well
my table.
help the mind because sometimes when we sleep our mind tends to at 3
Yeah,
a.m. we're like,
yeah.
why are tacos brown, like it's like these like weird things that we just all of a sudden
I wake up and write things in my phone that I don't remember doing, and then I wake up in the morning and I'm like,
oh,
"Wow, that was so profound, Georgia. I
right,
wonder what
right,
angel told you that one." But,
exactly.
my I have
So
a friend who gifted me a crystal ball, that is a big black tourmaline, my very good friend. I have to call her because we haven't spoken in a long time. But,
yeah.
the black tourmaline, I didn't think to put it in my bedroom. I should probably do that. I have it
Yeah,
somewhere else in the house.
I love tourmaline if it's in the four corners of your house. That's like my go. Like my apartment is four corners. There's tourmaline
Okay.
in there, and you just need like a nice little chunk, like a decent size. And what
Mhm.
it does, it puts that overall protection and really grounds your apartment. And I've
So
noticed
it's
that.
easier for us to harmonize with the frequencies, you think?
Yeah, so that's another thing too. I mean, you can also you can harmonize with certain crystals that harmonize
Mhm.
with certain frequencies. I mean, we all know that the bowls are made out of quartz, so we
Right.
know
Yeah,
that
mine are,
both
yeah,
resonate well, and it
yeah.
resonates those frequencies based off the dimension of the bowl, the size of the bowl determines
Mhm.
what
And it's
frequency,
funny you say that
better.
because the quartz always resonates so much better with me than the brass ones, the
I
metal
feel
ones.
the same way too. I've had some really profound experiences with the brass too, but like I'm
Mm,
more connected to with the healing. That
yeah.
small little crystal bowl, it's like whoop, and you can especially work on the heart or C. Those tends to be the two frequencies. I love F,
Mhm.
which is great for the heart, and I love C, which is really good for grounding. So it's like connects to the
I
root.
find, like, whatever I'm going through, whatever
Yeah,
chakra is having a little difficulty, I'll work with that bowl a lot, like, every morning for a while.
I found that to be effective, but I've also found with chakra work is that sometimes you think that chakra, it's not. It's the one underneath it or the one above. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll do a collective where I'll do like, let me just do three chakras in those fields.
Mhm.
I'll do a mental one for the third eye. I'll do a heart one for the heart, and I'll
We
do
should
one,
do an event. We
and
should
I'll
do
do
an event with the bowls.
yeah. These are the events I used to do actually
I know,
at the Arboretum. Yeah.
I
And I
know.
found,
Need
and
one.
it's important to get out, of course, and advertise this kind of stuff because I feel like these are some of the things that people may have forgotten, when they're
I
dealing
think
with it.
so, and I think that what's happened also, and the reason why light workers like you and I and, ones who are listening tonight, they're so important for us to get out and do our work because I feel like especially the last 6 months of 2025, because there's so much change, a lot of times because of the conditioning that we have in the world, people label it negative right away,
Right.
and we have to get out and remind them, like you just did with frequency,
Mhm.
that not everything's a negative,
Right.
you wanna synchronize with the higher vibe and do the things that resonate with you, and that's why I love when I have guests on the show because, crystals may be the thing for one person and, maybe yoga for another or just nature for another, and, like, just it doesn't matter what it is, just get into something that brings you to your soul space.
And I agree. And I
Yeah.
think there's one thing that you can argue and say that just works just with you being present is like singing bowls. Because I've had people that are like, I've never had a singing bowl experience, or like,
Mhm.
I don't know what this is about. And I just tell them, listen, just lay down, open your ears. I,
Yeah.
that's their
That
first level. They
happens.
gotta be able to hear it, right?
Mhm.
They gotta be able
Yeah,
to hear it. But once it goes in, all of a sudden they wake up and they're like, I felt something. And I'm like,
right.
exactly. You describe resonance. I can't
Yeah,
teach the resonance. I could tell them what it is, but until
gotta
you have
feel it,
that experience, you're just like,
right.
poof,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, it's like trying to describe what an orange tastes like. You gotta
Or
eat it.
try to describe how these Schuman spikes affect people. Do you understand when I'm on the group page and I'm writing stuff, like I could have so many different perspectives when it comes to it. Now,
Mhm.
I love to talk
Mhm.
about the importance of just sticking to the facts. Like when there's a blackout, for instance, a black line, that's it. There's a lot of speculation and a lot of conspiracy that says that it's a
Mhm.
timeline shift or something like that. But
Which
I
is what
will
I'm talking
tell you
about with,
that
like,
it's
it's
simply a
negative
machine.
right.
That's
Yeah,
all it is. It's
right,
simply the machine saying, listen, I don't have any data for that area. I'm blocking it out. Boop.
right.
That's it.
taking a breath.
When you see the blackout on this screen that goes over here, that's just what's not loaded yet. So there's
Right.
always a black portion on the graph that's just not loaded
Mhm.
because it only goes by the timestamp. So if and then remember the timestamp, these feeds are coming from Siberia. So it's 11
Mhm.
hours difference if you're on the East Coast, which we are, you know.
Mhm.
So you have to look at it and say 11 hours back to where it reflects to
That's
what
when
happened.
that
So a lot of
happened, yeah.
people think, "Oh, this happened," and I'm like, "No, no, no, you gotta know that it's 11 hours because that's
Right,
Siberia measuring it." So
right.
Siberia measured it, but it happened 11 hours when we felt it. It's
Well,
like
what
light that
got me
comes from different parts of the universe, like lights that come from different parts
oh,
of
yeah. Mm,
like different stars. We
yeah.
know that when the star how far the star is, like it could be
Mhm.
millions of miles away. That's the light from a million years ago. People
Right,
don't understand that. And that's
right.
the same aspect when it comes to here. It's
Well, it's
like
like
this
the, solar flares. People are like, "Oh,
happened.
we got a solar flare." Well, it happened 2 weeks ago, but it's just not here.
Yeah. But the stipulations is and I think the hysteria that comes from it is that people wanna jump on it and blame the Schuman spikes for what's happening, and that's when I'm
Right.
like a big advocate of like,
I'll tell you what hooked me on the
it
Schumann spike.
it may not be what you're seeing it as,
Right.
and you might be, again, that
Feel it.
manipulated perspective.
Right. You wanna get your data from your internal agency,
That's the
not
first yeah.
Facebook. Do not allow your spiritual barometer to be Facebook. It might not go
Cool.
so
Get it there first.
check in. Check in with
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
What got me hooked on the Schumann was,
You don't know your own
when I read
resonance.
about how when the world has certain really, big things happen, like 9/11 happened,
Right.
the Schumann resonance spiked,
Yeah.
and they said because there was so much compassion throughout the earth that
Oh, remember I
you
told you that grief and compassion, and when grief and
yeah,
compassion
the
meet,
grief.
there's a
Yeah,
spark. Poof! So
yeah,
that's
and
isn't it?
if
That's
you
the
watch
bell
the
being rung.
spikes
Boom! You know,
yep,
so grief comes and hits compassion and meets it and goes boom,
well,
and
that's
the
the purpose
Schumann
of grief.
goes
Yeah,
up and the earth is like, "Wow,
yeah.
where"
Well, the antidote for grief is gratitude, and compassion has to bring it, so,
and we
yeah.
produce this electric field, so yeah,
Yep, that's true. And so that's what made me suddenly get interested in it, and I started to watch, and I was like, "Wow, it really does have a heartbeat.
right.
The earth has a heartbeat," you
Well, this
know?
is an important aspect. I'm glad we brought this up because there's two aspects when we think about heartbeat. Okay, so
Mhm.
when we're talking Schumann, a lot of people get this confused too. They think it's the internal inside the planet, like boom, 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 boom. That's not that heartbeat. It's in the ionosphere, so it's happening outside of it, and it's
Right.
from the amount of lightning strikes that happens in the ionosphere that shards the ionosphere. It's a very important aspect. People think it could also be the amount of cosmic energy in that ionosphere, which is another really important
Because of what
aspect.
you just described, like, that's why I know that the astrology is so important to it,
Because it's coming, the
because
energy's
it's happening
coming
out there.
low.
Yeah,
It's gotta go through the ionosphere to get to us,
right,
so of course
right,
it's gonna be related.
right.
And, like
As
and
above,
that's
so
the good
below.
aspect that we think
I
about the
cannot
bell.
even believe that people don't believe in astrology, because when you really dive into astrology, which you gotta go to an astrologer because you
Right,
could study for 50 years, you're not gonna know it. But, there you literally cannot not believe in it when you start to really go into it. Like,
right.
it's there. It's tells you it's your roadmap, guys. Get your reading done. Zenkuda.com.
And what's fascinating is that there actually is another heartbeat.
Okay.
There's a heartbeat that happens every 26 seconds in this planet, and it's located they found there's a couple theories behind it. The first theory is that it's ocean waves crashing against the
365?
continental shelf.
Okay,
So it's
but does
ocean
this now
waves
this heartbeat
that are creating this, like, heartbeat, this resonance, and they're saying
okay.
that could be that's what we could be measuring. They don't know where it's coming from.
Is it
That's
in
what
sync with the
happened
human
earlier.
heart?
No, they're saying that it's coming from, like, the planet, like, Gaia we know Gaia is a live
Guys
entity. We
alive,
know
yeah.
all these planets are live
The earth
entities.
is
We know this.
alive, it's living and
We can
breathing.
see the Earth breathing in the satellite images that we have from
Mhm.
NASA. We really can
Yes.
see how the
Mhm.
how the planet does. So what I'm talking about is there was the other theory in 2013. This came from China, and they found that volcanic activity in Sao Tome Island. It's the Bite of Bunny. It's called, and in this there is a pulse that's coming from within this volcano, and they have no idea what is cool, who's sending this, where it's coming from, but they know they've located this. And that's where they're thinking that this and the other
Creator.
theory that this could be dark matter, that dark matter could be causing the heart of the earth to resonate with it. You know, because we haven't found that yet. And I believe
Right.
that the center of the earth theory, and I do believe in those theories that there is some hollow earth in this, but I also believe that there's also a heart within this planet. And I believe
Mhm.
that that's the something that, we talk about protecting the planet, which is I absolutely believe
Well,
in.
the
But
universe is certainly speaking to us, that's for sure.
yeah,
So,
and it has
whatever
been. I
creator
wish
energy is can
so.
be right. And it doesn't have to be an actual thing in a place.
Right,
Energy can just be a consciousness.
right. And
So
that's the other aspect is that while we're having all this cosmic energy and everything affecting the ionosphere and building the ionosphere up, we're
mhm,
also we're also finding that the energy that's falling in this ionosphere that we're able to start to collect it. And we're starting to realize that all our
yeah,
anxiety, like all those things affect what's put up in the ionosphere. So we're putting the
yeah,
energy up and then it gets supercharged by lightning and cosmic particles. And then the Schumann
comes back
spike.
down.
So that's
Yeah,
another aspect you have to look at is that it's also the
mhm,
contributor of our grief, our anxiety, but then also our compassion and gratitude. And that's when you see, like, that's why these spikes are not positive or negative. These are just the earth
so you
responding.
have to be
Hey,
careful
listen,
what you put out in the world.
oh, that's true too. So a spike can be from grief when we've had again 9/11, and then we had the prayer, like when we had COVID.
Mhm,
We had that
mhm.
prayer that happened, and we saw
Yeah,
the spike
the
that happened.
meditations,
That was a
yeah.
huge spike. We saw it. It was clear as day. There was no argument against it.
Nope,
It was 7.83 before the right when the meditation happened. Boom! It spiked all the way up to like 60, 70,
right.
80 hertz. You
So there's
know,
a response to our consciousness and our energy, there's a response. It's
so
that
I
figure
definitely
8.
know this. We know that there's evidence that support this.
Yep. But see, this is what they need to teach in school.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I mean, like, but the problem is that who wants has the attention for it? See,
No.
this is
Yeah.
what I love is that this is a great topic because people say it's like, well, why are they not teaching in school? Well, I have to say is why don't people have the attention span? Because right now, the attention span of an average kid in school is anywhere from like 2 to 3 minutes. That's all
Well,
you get.
I'll tell you
All
a
you're
quick
gonna
story.
get, and then they're on their head, their perspective
I'm
is
gonna
on the
answer
scale.
that for you, and I'm gonna tell you a quick story because it's now we have the generation, the young like I have 2 14-year-old twin niece and nephew, and they're the generation that don't know not having anything in their hand. They were born with something in their hand they were looking at, you know? I'm a generation that we didn't have that. There's not a generation behind me. Behind me, every generation had a
Well,
phone or
would you
something.
say like books and
So,
physical media
yeah,
would be an example? Like we had that, but we
right.
only had that perspective of that book we're
But
reading. There
here's
are
where we
millions of books that are accessed on the internet now. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
But here's where
Before,
we've
it
gone
was just that perspective.
But here's where we've gone with it. So today I was teaching a training class because I teach sales agents. I sell real estate and I also teach sales agents. So today I was in a class and I said to them, there was somebody else doing this meeting actually. It was somebody else doing the meeting, and they asked them to for a topic, about something, and so all of them said, "Oh, let's just ask AI."
Yeah.
So I said, "Okay, so you're supposed to be the expert, but
Mhm.
now you're asking AI. How long is it going to be before your clients and customers don't need you because they can just go to AI?"
I mean, it's
And they all
happening.
argued with me about it. But that's the attention span. You don't
And
have the attention span to sit and figure out a problem
right,
without going to some device.
right.
That's the problem. That's why no one has an attention span.
There's no
And
transfer.
I'm pro AI. I mean, I use it. It's made my life easier. I'm welcome to it. But I
Well,
have a short on YouTube right now. AI
yeah.
is never gonna feel for you.
What's
It
that?
can't give you the compassion. It's not gonna feel for you. It's
I have a
not gonna
hard.
give
I have a
compassion.
hard.
It's not gonna change the heartbeat.
I saw a lot of people upload their images into it and create these little wellness. Like it looks really great, but to me, this is my image. This is who I am. And it's like I don't want anybody to steal it. I mean, they can, but like to me, it's just
Right.
like. But here's the thing about AI. This is what I love is that AI. There's no transfer of wisdom. So you can
Yeah.
upload. You hear me? You have to program AI in order
Mhm.
for it to be able to register and look. It has to be connected to the internet in order to download the information from Britannica and all these other sources to
Right.
type.
Right.
Like
Well, it was
it does.
programmed.
But
Yeah. But see, the thing about AI is,
that's
Phoenix, is that
what we store.
it's shortening the attention span of the human.
Right.
That's the problem. I mean, I'm for AI in the right way, but no one's teaching children the proper way to use devices. No one's teaching us not to let go of our humanness. You can
Yeah.
use all those things and still be human, but when you use all those things and you're no longer human, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why talking about frequency and harmony is so, so important because if someone, like you just said, can't lay down and feel their own chakra system, can't feel that resonance with earth, with other people, then where is the species of humanity going?
Right.
How are we evolving? we have to evolve our humanness as well. And
And that
that's why what you do is so important.
now you see the struggles with creating harmonic resonance. Is
Mhm.
how to create harmonic resonance in these environments that are so toxic. Meaning that our own personal environments within our own bodies, like they're
Right.
extremely toxic with views, opinions, and non-factual information that people are just like, this is how it is, or this is what I
Mhm.
believe.
It
And I'm
is
like,
what it is.
belief. It's not belief. It's just a thought.
Right.
That's just creating this cognitive dissonance from you, and you're just not understanding to use discernment and say to yourself, "Hey, listen, what's the proper way of looking at something? Looking at something from the Earth view. Like I
Right.
try to look at things from the cosmos and out, not from what's happening in my immediate, area. Like you have to look
Mhm.
and really pull yourself back and really look at what's really happening. And you
Absolutely.
go, okay,
Yeah. Yeah,
we
and why am I feeling
react
like
more than we respond. That's probably our biggest, and that happens within the four fields of energy. I've seen that with people
that's
having
why
like
the work
burnt
you do is so
chakra cells
important.
like that. It's because they're reacting on and not responding, not really obtaining the information and digesting it. They're just regurgitating.
Right.
The
And
regurgitation
that's what
is
what
getting
every
really
light
bored.
worker in the world needs to stand up to do
It
because
drives me crazy when I hear people regurgitate stuff. It's like, what did AI program you, or you program AI? It's like, and that's really what it comes down to. It's
well,
like,
we were talking before the show opened, and I said to you, "Which came first, the chicken or the egg?"
right. But if you think about that, like, are people being programmed by spirit and connecting and getting that wisdom, or are they being programmed by people already doing the so-called work that they did for themselves? You know what I'm saying? Like, really think about that, and then you start to really realize why we're so out of sync and not in
Well,
harmony.
people are using AI for therapy now. Like, AI is their therapist, it makes them feel better, which is okay, you can do that, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, like, how much humanness did you lose there?
You know,
We
because
we're
I
supposed to
don't really
connect
see
with
an
each
AI
other,
unless they know the
not
program how to
team.
deal with your
Yeah, and also, isn't the most beautiful and most important thing we have in life connection?
It's probably the single most thing that makes us human.
Right, so if now we're
Take
giving
that
that up
back,
because
we're
we
not.
don't wanna be vulnerable or we're fearful or we don't have anyone to talk to,
Yeah,
like you just said, wouldn't common sense tell you, "Oh, there might be something I have to fix here. Why is this happening to me? Let me try and get into a different frequency." But
right.
no, everyone's like, "Oh, no, I use AI for my therapist." Okay, that's great. Keep doing that.
And
Gotta
what
bite
else
yourself in the
do
butt
you actually have been improving on? Are you just improving on what the AI is telling you to work on? Are you really improving on the things that you need to, like, that's the program,
on how
right?
it's
Is the
programmed,
AI
yeah.
programming you to be better,
And
or are you
then AI
programming?
probably, depending on the prompts, probably does tell you, "Hey, you need to, be more empathetic," or, "Hey, you need to work on this thing," but you don't have a connection with it.
I mean, I know this is generated by AI sound right. The singing bowl themselves. There's a
Mhm,
humanistic, there's another practice where
mhm.
you're sitting in a singing bowl and a human will make a mistake. A human will hit the bowl differently. But an
Right.
AI is gonna generate that frequency, what it's meant to do and programmed to do. And I
Well, and
think
also
that's important,
it's
really understand.
programmed.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, like, do you ever go to a beautiful concert or, you go to see fireworks or something beautiful and people are on their phones, they're all taking pictures. And I never do that because I just wanna feel the energy in live when it's happening.
Yeah.
So my theory is if you're gonna be doing Reiki or a singing bowl session with someone, they come to you. It's all divinely orchestrated because I believe in God, creator, whatever you wanna call him. So now someone's come to you and maybe those mistakes aren't really the mistakes. Maybe you're supposed to play this bowl and then that bowl and then this because that person laying on the table or on their yoga mat has been divinely guided to you and God is orchestrating what's coming through your hands. How could a recording on AI do that? It's
I
not
mean,
gonna do
I think honestly, if you think influencers when they're out there and they're doing these like AI created, event posts and stuff like that, and then you get
mhm.
there and they're not creating the same type of energy, how disappointing is someone going to be if you're focused on that and not really tuned in? Of course,
Well,
you're going
they're
to
not
be
and I'm
disappointed.
not saying this in a negative way, and I don't wanna bash anyone because there's a lot of great people on media right now, but I will say that there is also a category that's just become performance artists.
Oh yeah,
And when you have the proper energy and you're really heart-based, you're not a performance artist. Kim
right,
Shiana put up a beautiful post the other day about that and how
hmm,
she kind of went private with her healing work.
right,
And the same, like, I'm very strategic about what I put out. I'm not looking to become a huge influencer. I just wanna inspire 1 or 2 people who need to listen and
Right.
found me, and that was what they needed that day, and I seem to get feedback on that a lot, and I'm happy with that, you know? I'm just
I think
doing God's
you start to focus on quality instead of quantity.
yeah,
But
and you can say that
quantity
with
is
you
so much
too.
more attractive. It's like I got, a 1,200 followers just today. Like, okay, that's great, but what do you what
Yeah,
like? It's like when I say this about energy. It's like you can learn everything about energy, but how are you implementing it? How are you acclimating it? How are you putting it into action? I
what's the
think
intention? What is
maybe
your
the
intention?
most important aspect of grounding this spiritual aspects, these energies, and doing something with it. I think a lot
And
of us forget, like,
collecting followers isn't for the public. Collecting followers is for you.
right,
So what is your intention?
right.
You know, do
My
you want to what is the intention?
my intention is just to get information out and attract people that feel
And
this
you have such
information
a pure
is
heart.
beneficial. That's
Your
it.
heart is so pure. I mean, anytime I'm in your energy, I feel the healing, you know? So, it's just and we need more people like you in the world, and I'm just so grateful that you came on today because I
Thank
know there are a lot of people who need to hear these messages out there. So, we can
I
find you at greenphoenixhealing.com,
mhm, mhm.
okay? And you're on social media too, like
Oh, yeah.
Facebook?
Screen, you can find me at Phoenix Green on,
I love
Instagram.
our conversations.
What's that?
I love our conversations.
Yeah, we go into all different areas and aspects, and but the greatest thing is that we always come back to resonance at the end, you know?
Mhm.
Always come
So
back
can
to
you
that.
leave us with, like, a parting words? Like, what do you think is the most important thing that somebody can do right now to get themselves if someone's feeling dysregulated or not in sync, what's the
Yeah.
easiest and best thing to do?
I would think to find what's really important in your life, and it's not something that you can find digitally. It's something natural that you can really connect with, and find that and really learn how to resonate with it. I think we have so many things in our life, and I think our greatest aspect that we can have is to really truly resonate with something. And that's how we build relationships. That's how we grow. That's how we evolve. That's how we become and activate the spiritual beings that we are within and implement this. So
Mhm.
resonance is once you learn how to resonate with yourself, you ain't worried about everybody else's frequency.
That's true.
You're
That's
not
for
worried about everybody else's, what they're doing. You're focused on your own frequency and your own value to that harmonic resonance that you created.
so I'm gonna ask you to link your energy with mine for just a minute while I pull a card from the deck for our show tonight and to leave our people with.
Mhm.
So, just breathe in. What message does spirit have for us tonight with our beautiful show? Let me to pick this card. King of Cups, love. The King of Cups is the biggest card in the deck for me. King of Cups is about, the cup running over, love coming into our life. Cups is
Mhm.
all about our emotion and the king. So I'm going to say this is you, Phoenix. King of Cups tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. I love you. I hope I get to see you soon and good wishes to your puppy. I hope he's got a peaceful time of things as much as he can.
Yeah.
All right. I will
Thank
be
you.
here
I
next
appreciate
Monday.
it.
Yes, and you can find him on greenphoenixhealing.com and also social media. And
Beautiful.
I will be here next Monday night at 7 o'clock, and we are gonna have you on again because you were a great guest.
Yeah, we could talk about animal communication. That'd be great.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah,
Maybe we can even bring a couple of animals into the studio.
that would be cool. Definitely something to hope about.
Love it. All
Love
right.
you.
Thanks so much, Phoenix.
Thank you. Be well.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.